Hello, and on behalf of Emory University and the Georgia Climate Project, welcome to all of you to the 2019 Georgia Climate Conference. We are really excited to see you. My name is Daniel Rochberg, and I'm the Chief Strategy Officer of Emory University's Climate at Emory initiative, and Emory is really grateful to be working alongside 8 other schools on an effort called the Georgia Climate Project. It was co-founded by University of Georgia and Georgia Tech, and we've since been joined by Agnes Scott College, Spelman College, University of North Georgia, Georgia Southern University, Columbus State University, and as of this morning, I'm looking for my colleagues from Georgia State. I'm pleased to announce Georgia State is now an official partner in this show. And all of us are incredibly grateful to be working with a much broader network of folks across the state, of policymakers, practitioners, experts, concerned citizens. All of you here, and all who are watching on the webcast, I believe we are now up and running and streaming this live, you're the reason we are convening this conference. It's because of you, your expertise and your talents and your passion and your commitment to this issue that Georgia is so well positioned to emerge as a real leader on climate change. So thank you all for being here and for spending your time here. A bit of context, this is the second ever statewide conference on climate change. The first one was convened in 2016 by the Georgia Department of Natural Resources on Jekyll Island, and it was actually on the last day of that conference that the idea for this conference was hatched. I'm also pleased to announce today, I don't see Jennifer here, there she is, but DNR has indicated that they are planning to convene another conference in November of 2020. So here we are, a state that's getting quite accustomed to having conversations like this, and that's a really important and good thing. We're going to dive into our program shortly, and I should just say we're really grateful up here. We have an incredible group of leaders and storytellers who are going to talk about climate change from a variety of different perspectives. Before we get into that, I first want to do some important work to thank a lot of folks who made this possible, and then I want to just give you a bit of a sense of some key takeaways that we hope you'll come out of this with, but let's see if this works. Great. First, our presenting sponsor for this conference, and actually the founding sponsor for the Georgia Climate Project, is the Racy Anderson Foundation. It is not an exaggeration to say we literally would not be here today without not only their support, but also their commitment to working on such an important issue at the level of the state of Georgia. So we're really grateful. I see several of you here, but John and Jamie and Marianne and Harriet and Phil and the whole team, thank you very much for your support for this. Really appreciate it. Several other organizations really stepped up and for which we were quite grateful. So very grateful to very generous sponsorships at the diamond level from Emory and from Regions Bank. Gold sponsorships from University of Georgia and the Nature Conservancy. Silver sponsorships from Greenprint and the Turner Foundation, bronze sponsorship from the Georgia Department of Natural Resources, and then we have a whole number of other partners, basically our academic partners, as well as Georgia Interfaith Power and Light that has a great booth outside, as well as Proterra Bus. I hope you have a chance to see their bus. It's an all-electric bus. It's one of the models that UGA just procured 20 of, so check it out outside today. And then there are any number of people, and I won't be able to do justice to it, but basically just a really incredible team of folks who spent countless hours making this possible, and I just want to briefly, and won't do justice to it, acknowledge their work. A really great steering committee of folks, a really great program committee that really dug in through 100 different submissions from all of you about things we could talk about at this conference, as well as a student advisory group that really thought through the student experience. So thanks to all of you for your tireless work to make this possible. And I should say, not shown here are a bunch of staff members, both for the conference staff and the Georgia Climate Project staff, who are incredible and have worked really, literally night and day to make this here happen. So I'm going to introduce very briefly Marshall Shepard. I'm going to hand the stage over because what he's going to do for all of us is set the stage with a bit of a Climate 101. Many of you know this. Some of you might want to learn more. Marshall is the best educator we have on this topic, so we're lucky to have him. Before I do that, I wanted to share a few reflections on what we hope you all get out of this. We've got a conference that's called Minimizing Georgia's Risks, Maximizing Georgia's Future. When we talked about this conference in the past several months, a lot of people said, well, what's it about? What do you want folks to get out of it? And so I want to share from my perspective, from our perspective, what we think are sort of 5, hopefully, pretty straightforward takeaways. First one, obviously we're talking about climate change, but we're talking about it here in Georgia because climate change is a Georgia issue. It's also a global issue. It's also a national issue. It's also local, but it's a statewide issue. And the path forward on this issue runs through literally the entire state, right? It's not owned by any one of us. It's owned by all of us. So it's going to involve Republicans and Democrats. It's going to involve our rural communities and our cities. It's going to involve our neighbors from the mountains to the Piedmont to the coastal plain. It's going to involve the public sector and the private sector and the nonprofit sector and academics as well as concerned citizens. And it's going to involve the incredible racial and ethnic and economic diversity that makes this state the great state that it is. All of us need to find a way to have a conversation about climate change in our own voice, in our own comfort zone, and also to find a way to move forward together on it. And it really is something that I think we can do. And that's my second point, is that we have all of the talent we need to be a real leader on this issue. And I think we should all work towards a future when other states look to us and see Georgia as a true leader in two ways. Number one, that we are having a constructive and serious conversation that crosses our traditional dividing lines. And number two, that we're being clear-eyed about this and actually taking the practical and substantive steps forward that we need to deal with this issue. And of course, the reason we need to do this is the third takeaway. Climate change is hurting our bottom line. You're going to hear about this from Marshall. We are experiencing a new normal, or what some have called a new abnormal. And that's impacting our lives, our livelihoods, and the natural systems on which we depend. Those are very real risks, and if we're clear-eyed about those, we can move forward. Flip side, of course, back to the theme of the conference of minimizing our risks and maximizing our future, if we can be clear-eyed about what this means for us, then we can seize the opportunities that come with doing something about it, right? We can build resilience to the future shocks and stressors that we are going to be experiencing, and we can harness the state's incredible ingenuity and creativity to compete in an emerging low-carbon and climate-resilient economy. And if we do that, we can reap the benefits, especially jobs and economic development, that come with that kind of leadership and that kind of forward thinking. And finally, I want to bring this back to all of you. In this room, we have about 400 folks. We had more than 200 people try to get on through the wait list, and I'm sorry that we couldn't accommodate all of that. We are webcasting, though. And it's the folks represented here, last count, about 185 organizations across the state. We've got over 100 students. We have a really phenomenal group. And I think that's just scratching the surface of the network of talent and enthusiasm and energy we have in this state. And one of our collective challenges, hopefully this conference will be a bit of a step in that direction, is to continue to weave that network together and build that community so that we can find a way to move forward together. So that's what we hope you take away from the next day and a half, and we'll revisit this at the end to see whether we did take that away. A few housekeeping items before I turn it over to Marshall. First, I'm going to take out my phone for a few reasons. First is I want to take a picture of all of you. All right, so, Pano. There's a lot of you. All right. Say hello. Here we go. All right. Great. Thank you. Second, when you are on social media, because you all will be on social media most likely, please use hashtag Georgia Climate Conference. That's a way for all of us to participate in this conversation. And third, when you have your phones out, all of the information you need for the conference should be accessible if you go to the conference website. The URL is out there. There's a code you can scan. It's conference.georgiaclimateproject.org. Schedule, speakers, speaker bios, et cetera. We're trying to be low paper as much as possible, but we do have hard copies around, and we have a ton of folks in the audience in the halls who can help you.